Good evening, boxing fans, and welcome back to Enter the Ring Live for Tuesday, April the 27th, 2021. What's up, bro?
What's up, my brother?
Oh, I forgot to say with your host, Mighty Mike.
And AJ Rage.
What's going on, everybody?
How was you're back, huh? So what? You went out and had some fun, huh?
Yeah, I just took off for the weekend.
That's cool.
Had to get away, man.
Hey, man. Sometimes with everything going on, man, sometimes you just got to do that, bro. You know?
Yeah.
You have fun?
Yeah. Had fun. But it's just I came home and just got to catch up on things, paperwork, emails. I was out showing some homes earlier. It's disappointing, man, for buyers out there in the California real estate market. It's so depressing for them. It's so hard to get a house.
I think at this point, everything's pretty much disappointing.
Yeah.
But so real quick before we jump into the talk about some of the upcoming fights and stuff, did you get a chance? I know you were out of state, but did you get a chance to catch the big card over on ESPN?
Yeah, well, I didn't catch the entire thing, but I was able to catch most of the highlights, and I saw a little bit of one of the fights live. I mean, I'm kind of echo the sentiments you guys expressed on Sunday's show. Berlanga, it took him what? He won by decision. Was it 10 round decision?
8-round decision.
Oh, 8-round decision. That's right. 8 rounds. So that was he goes 8 rounds for the first time, gets out of the first round for the first time against a guy that, the guy was an opponent. That's it. He did drop the guy 3 or 4 times?
But out of the four knockdowns, maybe 2, one was really legitimate. The last one, the other 3 one was legitimate too, but 2 of them were very questionable. One of them, the guy was in forward motion, got hit behind the head in the back and went down. It was just kind of ridiculous. Yeah. It was one of those situations where you saw it right when the broadcast started. Mm-hmm. If you weren't a top-ranked fighter, and if you were winning, and if you were showing that you were competitive in this fight, and you were going to possibly trip up that prospect, you better not get yourself in a situation, because as soon as these guys got a little hurt, that referee was so fast to stop these fights.
Yeah.
What did you think about Bob Arum, though? The fact I did comment that I like that Bob is, at his age, 1,000,000 years old, he's there early watching the undercard guys.
He's got to. That's these are the guys he's got to kind of give the Caesar at the thumbs up or the thumbs down, and you got to impress the old man.
I made the comment. I guarantee Dana White in the MMA. I guarantee he's not there early, sitting there watching the fights. I've never seen that before. Speaking of
MMA, I know we don't watch, but did you see that guy break his leg?
Yeah, Wiseman. Yeah, that was pretty.
Oh my God, that was pretty brutal.
That was the same thing that happened to Anderson Silva. I think about 4 or 5 years ago. Anderson Silva did the same thing in a fight.
Just snapped his leg, huh?
Snapped his leg, man. It was disgusting, dude.
It looked like a tennis ball inside of a sock. The way his foot whipped. I don't watch UFC, but I did see that, and it was like, oh my God.
It was pretty irritating to watch at points, because you got Joe Rogan and these guys, and I'm noticing about them, it's like maybe it's the non-action going on in the ring, because these guys get so elevated. It's like everybody's like Marlon, or no, what's his name?
Mauro Ranallo.
Yeah, and he's gonna go on again. Everybody's screaming, dude. I'm like,
yeah, they embellish, and they have a name for every little move, every little nuance. They have to give it a name to make it seem more scientific, and I don't know.
Well, when they called this guy Usman, they bequeathed him the greatest fighter in the world. I said, whoa, put the brakes on there. Maybe in the UFC, but not in the world, buddy. It ain't gonna happen, dude. You know what I'm saying?
Well, not even in the UFC, because what weight does he fight at? I guess
welterweight.
It's all relative.
I don't know. Yeah,
I don't know.
There was one good thing about it that I didn't mind about the UFC, though. I saw that. I like her too. That Rose Neme.
Yeah. I saw that. She beat that Chinese girl.
She's a good girl, man. She's a good girl. She smacked her down and stuff like that. So why don't we?
She's humble. She's very humble.
Very humble person.
She kind of doesn't fit into the UFC, to be honest with you. She's just like a quiet assassin. She just goes about her business.
Yeah, it was really good to see her do that. Yeah. So
back to the fights this weekend. Like I said, not much more to say about Berlanga. Okay, he got out of the first round. The KO streak comes to an end. We all kind of knew that the KO streak wasn't what they were making it out to be. It was a good marketing ploy. Guess what? That marketing, might as well just throw that in the shredder. So that's gone. So now you have to figure out another way to market this guy, and you have to step him up in competition. You just have to.
Well, yeah, they're gonna have to, and I was talking about that when I did the show the other day by myself. Was that at this point now, you can't beat him another no name. There's guys out there, guys like David Lemieux and other guys like that. Maybe that might be a little bit big step, but I mean, the guy's 17-0 now. It's not like he's a 7-0 fighter. He's guy's already had 17 fights. When do you step up to a guy who's actually has the prospect of doing something in the future, not a guy who's just kind of holding on?
You know what shocked me is the fact that it was only an 8-rounder.
Yeah.
I mean, why is this guy within the 17th pro fight fighting an 8-rounder?
I think a lot of it had to do with his management, because his management felt that they wanted him to get the rounds, and
he should be fighting 10 rounds.
He's lucky it wasn't 10 rounds.
He should be fighting 15 rounds. There's no reason for him to only be scheduled for 8-round fights. Anyways, the main event, Navarrete versus Christopher Diaz. That was, I mean, it was a good fight. It was an exciting fight. You know,
I thought Christopher Diaz had the right recipe. What he was doing in the beginning when he was working the body of Navarrete, it was taking a lot of the sting off of Navarrete's punches. But the guy, Andre Ward made a comment that Navarrete's arms are as long as his, and he fought at super middleweight and light heavyweight.
He does have long arms.
And the thing was, how many times are guys going to get caught with that unorthodox long uppercut? I've seen so many fighters. It's real simple.
I know, what the hell, and it's not like it's a fast punch. It's
always in the beginning of the round. It's when Christopher Diaz made the mistake. You never walk straight towards Navarrete. You have to use angles. You have to turn. If you give him a straight object, he launches that thing, and boom, you're on your ass.
Yeah. It's like that ugly half uppercut, half hooks, like a 45-degree right, but the way he throws it is just so strange. I remember that's the one he caught Panchito with in the second round.
The same thing.
Like, what are you doing? How did you not see that coming?
Because it comes from such a long range. I think they think that it's not going to hit him. They don't realize how long this guy's got. Snake arms,
Yeah. So they're thinking that it's going to come up short.
But still, like I said, you can't be a straight target.
You can't be a stationary target when you.
No, you got to do the Mike Tyson thing, move a little bit or something. But
yeah,
I thought Christopher Diaz made a good account of himself. Did a lot better than I thought he was going to do. I mean, obviously the corner stopped the fight. He was never going to quit. He would have went out on his back. Very emotional guy, very humble guy, great guy. He's still got a lot of fight in him. He's going to still shake up a lot of people. He was going toe to toe with Navarrete, and at times getting the best of him.
Yeah,
but it was an exciting fight.
So I guess we'll kind of jump ahead. We were going to talk about potential rumors, but since we're talking about Navarrete, there's already rumors. I read it, I think, yesterday on Boxing Scene. They're already trying to negotiate their next fight against Joet Gonzalez at 126. And Joet, obviously, local boy right here from Glendora. He's a good fighter. He's got the one loss to Shakur where he just kind of stunk it up. He just didn't let his hands go. He was just intimidated by Shakur's speed. He just could never get the timing down, let his hands go. Looked much better when he fought Mariaga, but still, though, I mean, what are your thoughts on that? What are your thoughts on that?
Well, going into the Shakur Stevenson fight, I was high on Joet Gonzalez. I really liked this kid. I'd seen him in his previous fight, and he completely destroyed. I can't remember the guy that he fought. I think that there was a combination of not just Joet not ready to fight Shakur, but there was that mental thing and that personal stuff that was going on behind
the sister and everything.
Yeah. So he was doing some things that Joet doesn't normally do. I don't think it's a good matchup with Navarrete. I think, once again, like I said earlier, I think it's Navarrete taking on a guy who's there to be hit. Joet's not hard to hit. He doesn't have a huge punch. It kind of fits into what Navarrete. Now, if it was Shakur Stevenson fighting against Navarrete, that to me would be very interesting. But you never know. I mean, Joet's got big heart. He's a tough kid. I wish him the best, but I just don't think that this is going to be his night against a guy that's as active and as strong as Navarrete. And
Navarrete, I did say this one thing about him earlier when we were talking, that he is fighting regularly. I think he's probably, since the pandemic started, I think he's got at least as many or more fights than any active known championship caliber fighter. I mean, he's just continued to fight and fight and fight and fight. So I will give him credit for that. They're keeping him active, but he comes from the same promotional company as Jaime Munguia, and Zanford keeps their fighters active, man. They fight. There's no sitting down waiting for 3, 4, 5 months fight. I mean, they get you fights.
Well, no, yeah, like I said, this is Navarrete's first fight in 2021. But in 2020, he fought Ruben Villa. He beat Euro Lopez, Joe Sansamia. He had 4, well,
4
three solid,
fights?
well, three fights because really four because Francisco Horta was right at the end of the year, so that could be considered a fourth fight. That's
Yeah.
how many fighters do you see fighting 4 fights in a year?
Yeah, especially during the pandemic.
Yeah.
Um, my early thoughts on that fight, I think Joette's going to make that fight competitive, more competitive than people think. But I think ultimately, I think Navarrete will break him down. Because, like you said, Joette is there to be hit. He's not the right style to beat Navarrete, and he's going to fall victim to those big long uppercuts, and he's there to be hit, and he'll get hit, and we'll see. I mean, we haven't really seen Joette's chin get tested. I mean, Shakur beat him, but never really laid anything significant on him. I mean, it was more or less, I don't know, it was like a glorified
Well,
spot.
Shakur's another guy. He's just a pop shotter. Like I said, if Shakur Stevenson was to be successful against Navarrete, it wouldn't be a stoppage. It would just be a boxing exhibition where he's gonna
Yeah.
tap and shoot out and stuff like this. I think a fighter that could beat Navarrete style wise, he can't fight him because he's too big. But a guy like Regis Prograis, a guy who's got pop, but a guy who move, but Regis rolls with the punches so well. That's the kind of guy you need that goes from the body to the head. It has just enough footwork to get out of the way and roll with the punches and come back with something. That's the kind of guy that could beat Emanuel Navarrete.
Well, okay, so since we're talking about the ESPN card and Top Rank, let's stick with that for a second because something else popped up that I saw. They're trying to negotiate Oscar Valdez fight against that the Cuban guy, Robici Conceição, or how do you say his last name? And that guy's another good amateur standout. That's a tough fight for Oscar Valdez.
Yeah, I hadn't even heard about it. When did they talk about that?
I think it was just yesterday. I saw they were talking about that. That could be the potential next opponent for Oscar Valdez. Everybody was right away saying, should he fight? Should he fight Shakur? Should he fight? Who just beat Carl Frampton? Jamal Herring. They're talking about that potentially, but it looks like it's going to possibly be this tough Cuban fighter. I think he's Cuban.
His name was
Conces. I can't say his last name. Conceição or something.
Oh no, you talk about Andrew Cancio?
No, not Chongo Cancio. No. It'll come to me in a minute. But Oscar Valdez, that's another tough fight, and a guy with a good amateur background. I think they may have even met in the amateurs before. I think it's very possible that they fought each other in the amateurs, obviously at a lower weight. But I mean, that's a good comeback. That's a good, especially because of the magnitude of the fight that he just fought. And even though he was dominant in the fight, it was still physically a very taxing fight for Valdez. Right? You agree?
No, I agree because I actually saw a thing where they talked to Valdez later on when he was just getting back in the gym, and Valdez actually made some comments that he really didn't feel the effects of the fight until about 2 days after. And it just shows you that the power that Berchelt, that he exhibited. He said that, Oscar, he was very open and honest. He's another one that's a very humble, open, very transparent. And he said, there was moments in there where maybe a fighter not at Valdez's level would have gave up with some of the stuff that Berchelt was doing. But I agree. I mean,
okay, his name is Conceição. And you know the guy, Robson Conceição. I believe he's a Cuban fighter.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and this will be his first defense for the WBC crown. I think it's a good fight. That Conceição was an Olympic gold medalist, so he's a good boxer.
Now, if it's the same one I'm thinking of, Robes, is he the kid that lost his pro debut and then came back and had some success? Because he doesn't have very many fights.
No, he's 16-0 with 8 knockouts. Oh, he's Brazilian. That's what, not Cuban. He's from Brazil.
Yeah, because I'm not even seeing him on Boxing Rec.
Yeah. His last name is kind of difficult to spell. It's Conceicaao. But I saw his last fight, and he impressed me. I said, "Oh, this guy, he's kind of rangy. He kind of reminds me of a like a Yordenis Ugas kind of fighter.
Okay,
kind of big and pretty strong for the weight, but we'll see. That's a good fight for Valdez. So,
well, yeah, I mean, I think we said it before. Valdez just accepting that challenge or initiating that challenge against Berchelt shows that he's one of these fighters that's daring to be great. You can't really overlook Valdez at anybody right now in either the junior lightweight or the lightweight division. And I'm talking about the likes of even guys like Teofimo Lopez, Vasily Lomachenko, Jorge Linares, and all of them. Valdez is there. He's proven it, by beating the guys that he's beating. So anybody that overlooks him and takes him lightly is going to suffer the same consequences that Burchell did.
Because a lot of people said Burchell wins that fight. He goes up to 135 and he takes on the big boys, and they were very fully confident that Burchell could do it. You got to be equally as confident, if not more confident, that Valdez could do it. Because, like you said, because of his heart, because of the way he fights, because of his
punching power, his punching power.
And the fact that he digs deep, dude, he digs deep. You think, he's been hurt, broken jaw, dropped. He gets up and he just finishes strong.
He's a freaking nightmare for an opponent to go into a fight. That you're going to be in one of those balls out, Apollo Creed, Rockies type situations, because the kid's not going to give up. It's either the corner's going to throw in the towel or he's going to stop breathing in the middle of the ring. So, but now that's another good thing for Valdez. I'm excited. I mean, I'm a fan now. I love watching a fight. I wasn't in the beginning, but I love watching what he's doing at this moment.
Yeah, he's definitely turning into definitely a fan favorite. That's for sure. Let's talk about the fights coming up there's a lot of fights that's coming up Saturday. You got a couple in the UK that we can maybe at the end of the show talk about, but the one I'm really excited about, and ever since they first announced it, a lot of people thought, why are these two guys fighting? It's a crossroads kind of fight, whatever. But the fight at Carson, California this Saturday at Dignity Health Sports Park in Carson, formerly the Home Depot Center, formerly StubHub, whatever you want to call it. Chris Ariola versus Andy Reese. Andy Reese's first fight back since losing to Anthony Joshua, losing his titles back to AJ. Obviously, we know he's with the Reynosos. He's been training alongside Canelo, alongside Ryan Garcia, alongside Oscar Valdez. I mean, he does appear to have put the work in. He is lighter than he's been probably ever at a heavyweight. But Chris looks great too. I saw the open workout yesterday. Chris, the pictures and some of the video from his open workout at 10 Goose, and Chris Ariola's in some pretty damn good shape himself.
Dan Goosen, who trained Chris Ariola for a while. Joe Goosen. He couldn't really go too deep into it, but then after the podcast, after the thing, they were talking and stuff, and he said that this is a very winnable fight for Ariola. Just based on the fact that Ariola's got what he's got, they talk about that Mexican, that true warrior heart. That's what Ariola's got. I mean, look at his fight against Kanowski, even against Klitschko's, Deontay Wilder. This is a guy who never gives up, and it had his moments in each one of those fights. It was not just a walkover.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and Joe's training him now. I mean, he left. Obviously, we know the story with Manny Robles, and I'm sorry. Not Chris. Chris was training with in Riverside with
Ben Lira, wasn't he?
No, not Ben Lira. No, Henry Ramirez. Okay. For years, he trained in Riverside with Henry Ramirez. He's with Joe Goosen now. To me, Joe Goosen, I think I really don't think he's as good as trainer as people think he is. To me, he's more about just putting the mousse in his hair and looking great in front of the cameras. They got
great hair though. The Goosens, they did have great hair.
Yeah, he does. He's got some nice, expensive mousse in that hair. Anyways, so Joe Goosen's is working with Chris, and he's got him in shape. I mean, he basically told him, "Hey, Chris, you got to get in shape for this fight. You're 40 years old. You can't take any shortcuts in this one." And I think he's ready for a good fight. And I mean, Andy Reese has got fast hands. Punching power? Does he have punching power? I don't know. I mean, I don't think he's got that much punching power. I just think it's more or less AJ. He caught AJ at the right spot on the temple or the back of the ear, whatever it was, and just his equilibrium was all messed up. But he does have fast hands for heavyweight, and they have sparred before. They talked about the sparring. I think both guys are pretty respectful of each other. They probably figured, hey, we 15 years ago when we sparred, did we think we'd be here? And now they're here. And I'm telling you, I'm excited for the fight. It doesn't mean anything in terms of the championship picture, because there's so many other heavyweights out there that are waiting and lying in wait, waiting for the shot. Right. Yep. But it's a good fight, man. And I'm excited for that fight. And the undercard is great too.
Well, like I said, I mean, it all depends on which fighters show up. I truly believe Chris Ariola is going to be in shape. We saw it on the undercard of the Deontay Wilder Fury 1 when he fought against Lorenzo Smith, a guy who's a tough guy. He's a trail horse, but he's a tough guy. Ariola was in good shape. He ended up stopping a guy who hadn't really been stopped in the 6th round.
Chris looked good in that fight, though. And
he looks really good.
The worst thing about that fight was he was like one of the last bouts on the card.
He was the popcorn fight, dude. He was a fight, dude. When you look at your bag of popcorn and figure out how much you got left before you got to get out of the building, dude. You know, I mean, it sucked, but we stuck around.
Yeah, we stuck around. We stuck around to watch him fight.
Yeah, he did. You know, he looked really good. I'm still going to go back to what I think about Andy, and I don't want to get too much on this, but sometimes too much change is not a good thing. If you really look at what mistakes Andy made going to that second Joshua fight, it was just basically concentration and just the fact that he just didn't really do any work to prepare himself to get ready for the fight. You even got to just do the basics, and that was Manny Robles' responsibility, along with Andy Reese, to make sure that he was prepared. Do the same thing that you did in part one, but just make sure you got the gas. Andy was out of gas by the third, fourth round. He was just chasing Joshua. It was a complete joke. Andy Reese losing a bunch of weight and trying to fight like Canelo, to me, is not the answer. The Reynosos are not the answers. Maybe in time, but you don't get this dramatic for this fight, a comeback fight, this fast. I could be wrong. Andy might go out there and look absolutely amazing and blast Chris out. Who knows? But if he doesn't blast Chris out, and if Chris knocks him out because Andy's not doing the things that he did successfully in the past, the fall and the blame is going to fall back on the Reynosos.
Yeah, what do you think? You think it's a no-win situation for Andy? You think if he beats Chris, just like, well, Chris is 40, 41, going on 41, is he supposed to win this fight?
I think it's a dangerous fight. I think it's a win situation too for Andy, because Chris is not considered a bum. He's not a stepping stone. You know, he's not a park trick. He's a guy who's still there. There's a lot of fighters. I don't see guys like Dereck Chisora, Dillian White. I don't see these guys calling out Chris Ariola. You know, Chris Ariola is out there still trying to get big fights. It's just a matter of who's willing to fight him.
Yeah, and like you said, he's a guy that's never not shown up for a big fight. You know,
I think that had a lot to do with Kodowski having his issues with Helenas. Was his battle and his war. Chris took a lot out of him.
And they threw about 1,000 punches in that fight.
Yeah, man.
Now, granted, Kalinowski won the decision; it was comfortable, but a lot of those rounds were very, very close. And
that was a real wide decision.
Yeah, it was. I think it was closer than the decision, but Chris was in that fight to the very end. So
yeah,
and
it was a brutal fight.
Any early predictions for that fight? I mean, what do you think? If you had call a winner right now, I can't call it because I just don't know what we're going to see. That's why I'm intrigued by this fight. I'm like, what is it going to look like when these two guys are standing toe to toe?
Well, I think the thing is you got to look at it this way, bro. Anthony Joshua is a big hitter, but is Anthony Joshua a bigger hitter than Chris Ariola? Okay. The only person who could really say that possibly would be a fighter that fought. So there is no measuring stick in which to really see between the two fighters.
There's no common opponents.
There's no common opponents. Me, myself, personally, just based on the fights that they fought and the opponents that they fought and how the results have ended, I'm going to go with Ariola being the bigger hitter, just the way that he lands his punches. So if Andy had issues in the beginning, like I said, he was able to land the punch against a guy who I still felt wasn't ready for that moment. You know, if he gets caught and dropped by Chris Ariola, Chris isn't the type of guy who's going to get caught by some weird punch. Chris, it's going to be over that quick. You know, and Chris is going to go for the knockout. I think he's saying, you know, I don't think Anthony Joshua is as big as a punch as people says he is. And Andy Reese has been dropped. So I think I could be there, you know, to do. You got
to look at Chris. You imagine Chris, if Chris goes in there and gets the stoppage or wins dramatically like that. I mean, he could say, hey, I get my third crack now at a world heavyweight shot.
You would have to. You
have to say, obviously maybe not right away, but for that, at that moment, you just kind of bide your time and wait, even if it's against one of the other belt holders. You know, who doesn't Hellenius own a version of the WBA belt? I believe wasn't that fight against Karnowski for a WBA interim or whatever. But even if it's not the lineal championship and whatever, but for Chris to be able to say I won a title at heavyweight, becoming the second Mexican American to win a heavyweight championship. I mean, I think he'd be happy with that. I think he's motivated. Right, he kind of feels like this.
I really wish in my heart that it would have been Chris to be the first Mexican American to win the title rather than
I do as well.
Because Chris being, you know, I know Chris has got kind of a potty mouth and he kind of gets a little, but like I said, John Molina knows him. I've met Chris a couple times. He's a humble guy. He's a family guy. He's a local boy right here from Riverside, California. You know, he is what he is, man. And the thing is that
he never got caught up in the flash, and he made some good. He had some good.
Made a lot of good money. Yeah,
He never lost track and started buying houses and cars and all that stuff.
You made a good point right there, bro. That's a perfect point. Chris, even through defeats and through his major accomplishments, his focus always remained where it needed to be. Andy Ruiz showed that with one little taste of success, his focus and his drive went right out the window, and it went right behind the wheel of a Bentley and a swimming pool and a mansion. That's where I think Chris is going to get him. Who wants it more? How much does Andy really want this at this moment? I think Chris knows he needs this for not only himself, his family, but his legacy.
Yeah, and
because I mean, not winning the world title, but to beat the Mexican guy who won the world title, that's an accomplishment in itself.
Yeah, I think most importantly, definitely family and legacy. I don't think money is an issue. I think whatever number they threw down on the contract, Chris said, give it to me. Let's do it. So let's talk about the undercard. There's quite a few fights. You got Erislandy Lara fighting on the undercard. You got Sebastian Fundora fighting on the undercard.
That's what I'm excited about.
He's fighting Jorge
Cota. Yeah.
Cota. Yeah, and this is definitely a known guy. He continues to step up his competition, right? He's doing something different than like we talked about Berlanga. You're actually fighting guys that you recognize the names. And I believe, if I'm correct, Fundora has less fights than Berlanga. Am I right in saying that? How many fights does Sebastian Fundora have?
Fundora has 16 bouts compared to the 34 bouts that that Cota has. But the thing is, you got to.
But in comparison to Berlanga is what I'm saying. Berlanga's.
Oh no, yeah,
he had to fight somebody that we know, and he's got 17 fights.
Well, I think that's why Fundora is getting mentioned. We noticed that because remember, we've been talking about Fundora now for over a year, and now the media, the mainstream media, is starting to pick up on it and starting to put him in conversations. I thought it was kind of cool that when they put the little screen graphics up there, how his picture was in there as a possible opponent. He's an oddity. You know, he's a kid that's 6'6.5". Doesn't look like he's got the power or the polish to be doing what he's doing, but he just has it, you know. This guy who he's fighting is not a pushover. Once again, it's another step up for him against a guy who just had a title shot. You know, obviously he lost in 3 rounds in the 3rd round to Jamel Charlo, but he had his moments in the 1st round and in the 2nd round. He also fought, his other loss was to Jerson Rosario, and his other one was to Erickson Lubin. None of those fighters are to be ashamed of.
Oh yeah. So the other fight on here, which is actually kind of interesting to me because this is his first foray at 160. I don't know how I feel about him going to 160, but Erislandy Lara is going to be fighting Cornflake Lamana on this card as well. And this is going to be his first fight at 160. Now, does he look like a guy who's ever struggled to make 154? No, but maybe he just figures, hey, maybe there's some bigger fights at middleweight. Maybe there's a lot of opponents at 154, but maybe he just figures, hey, let's go to 160. You know, I am getting a little bit older. He's nearing 40 years old. So he's going up to 160. And Lamana is a good, tough guy.
This is a scary fight for Erislandy Lara for a couple of reasons. His inactivity, for one, and the fact that he's fighting against a guy who's natural for the division. Like you said, it never looked like Lara really struggled at 154. He was able to be successful. I always thought that Lara would have been more successful at welterweight if he could make the weight. He was built as a welterweight. Yeah, I always thought he was even too small for 154. 160. I mean, you got to look at some of the monsters that are in there. I mean, you got you got Jamal Charlo. You got Jaime Munguia. I mean, you got some monsters up there and stuff that I don't know if that's really what he wants. So I mean, this is going to be a really good measuring stick to see where Lara is. If Lara can go in there and be dominating and beat this guy, because like I said, I mean, this kid, he's beaten some good fighters. I mean, he did lose to Cota in the 5th round, but go back and watch that fight when he fought Jorge Cota. It was a tough fight.
Yeah, man. There's a lot of fights this Saturday. The ones coming from the UK, not too excited about. This is a fight that was signed literally almost moments after Joseph Parker's win, his last win against Junior Fa, which was another stinker. And he's fighting. I mean, they just keep digging Dereck Chisora up. They just keep unearthing that grave and bringing him out again for another fight. And they're selling these fights. And I got to be honest with you, I'm not a betting man, but I bet this fight goes 10 uneventful, boring rounds. Chisora chases and chases and chases Parker. Parker just boxes his way to another boring. And it pains me to say this too, because 3-4 years ago, I liked Joseph Parker. Yeah. And I thought he had potential, but when I watch that guy fight now, good Lord.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
He's just unwatchable. He's like the heavyweight version of Demetrius Andre. He makes Andre look exciting. He's just unwatchable now.
I'll tell you the weird thing is if you go back and watch Dereck Chisora when he got his bout against Anthony Joshua, and then go watch his fight against Junior Fox, two completely different fighters. Something just is amiss with Joseph Parker. He's so hot and cold. You just don't know which guy's going to show up. Dereck Chisora, they keep giving this guy opportunities. I mean, he must be related to Eddie Hearn. I don't know, but where I think this can end up being maybe the end of the road for Joseph Parker is the fact that Parker's such a freaking notorious slow starter. And that's the only thing Dereck Chisora has that gets you in the first 3 rounds. After that, the guy's completely out of gas. Joseph Parker showed moments where he was getting, and Junior Fall is not a big puncher, and he was kind of rocking. I don't know. I just saw this thing I just think, honestly, if Dereck Chisora wins this fight, it's probably the end of Joseph Parker. Definitely the end of him being any type of a title contender.
Yeah.
I mean, do we really want to see Anthony Joshua versus Dereck Chisora again?
Yeah. On that same card, there's actually quite a few fights on that card coming from the UK. Dimitri Bivol is finally returning to the ring, fighting in this Britain's Craig Richards, guy with the 16-1 record, 16-1-1. Don't know much about him. Obviously, a local product. It's obviously just a fight for Dimitri to be back. He hasn't fought in a long time, right? I can't remember when Bivol's last fight. It's been a while, but I mean, what do you think about that fight? I mean, obviously, this to me is just an opponent for Dimitri, just to stay busy, to basically to get busy again. Knock off the ring rust, so to speak.
I actually saw Richards fight when he fought against Jake Bell, who is actually kind of a local product, but the thing is that he's a slick fighter. I mean, he's a guy that, I mean, I'm not going to say that he's this major puncher or something like this, but Bivol's not the hardest person to hit.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, you have to look at the inactivity. Definitely Dimitri should be the favorite going into this fight.
Yeah, yeah.
But at this point in the UK, there's been so many upsets in the UK, going back to the Josh Warrington and others. You just never know what's going to happen.
You never know.
There's a bad potion going around in the UK right now, and they're not coming up on the upside.
Yeah. Katie Taylor's returning to the ring, a rematch with Natasha Jones. I got to give Katie Taylor credit. Love her, hate her, she's staying active. She's fighting regularly. I mean, she's establishing herself. I still think the best female fighter today is Amanda Serrano, still, without a doubt. Amanda Serrano is the complete package. She can box you, she can knock you out. But Katie Taylor, you got to give her credit. She is continuing to fight. She doesn't get caught up in the, move up 2 divisions and fight Clarissa Shields, I mean, things of that nature, because there's nothing even in that fight. But I think ultimately we all want to. There's only one fight I want to see Katie Taylor in. I want to see Katie Taylor and Amanda Serrano fight. Eddie Hearn doesn't want to see that fight. I have no doubt in my mind Katie Taylor would take the fight. She's a tough girl. Amanda Serrano knocks her out, beats her up and knocks her out. It's competitive for 3-4 rounds, but Serrano breaks her down and knocks her out. Similar to what she did in her last fight a couple weeks ago. Serrano, she's just too good.
No, Serrano's way too good for her. But I'm going to tell you right now, Natasha Jones is a live dog for a couple of reasons.
Yeah.
Go back and look, even though she's 36 years old, go back and look at some of her fights and some of the opponents that she's fought. She's a slick fighter, but she's got more power than people think she possesses. She's one of these fighters that either gets drawn out into a 10-round decision or she stuns you and she takes you out early. Katie Taylor's shown that it's not hard to find her chin.
No, she's very hittable.
She's had some questionable decisions. The one that really kind of sticks out when you really think about it was against
Persoon.
Delphine
Persoon. Yeah.
Yeah. That was just, but she made up for it in the next fight and thoroughly dominated and stuff. But this is the one where, like I said, it's a keep busy fight for Katie Taylor, but I'm going to go back to that bad juju going around the UK. You just never know,
Never know. Chris Eubank Jr. is also fighting on there. His opponent, something Morrison, don't know much about him, but Chris Eubank Jr., I know he's talking a lot. He's saying, I'm the guy I'm Triple G styles made for me, blah, blah, blah. I don't know. Eubank Jr., has he really done anything really? His biggest fight, he just stunk up the joint against Billy Joe Saunders, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. I mean, he's another guy, very unlike a Tim Tszyu or where who's not living off of his father's name, and he's actually earning his stripes. Well, Eubanks, Nigel Benn, or Connor Benn.
Yeah.
Guys are
all these guys. I mean, let's be honest. They're living off. They say that they're not, but they're living off of their dad's names, Eubanks and Benn. But what really,
and the reason why you know that is because who's always in the interviews from right there ringside with it's their fathers. Whereas Tim Zoo's doing it. His dad only attended his very, very first fight. And he told his dad after that, you're no longer allowed to attend any of my fights. Can't come up here and disrupt what I got going on here, you know?
Yeah, because because Tim Zoo's completely different machine than these other guys. Tim Zoo's truly trying to carve his own path and his own legacy.
I mean, he can't change his name. He is who he is, you know?
No, you can't disrespect your father. But at the same time, he acknowledges the things that his father's done for him and a lot of the naturally blessed gifts that were inherited through birth that he was able to acquire from his father.
Yeah.
Is he as good as his dad? It's still out there. You don't know, because you got to look at what Costa Zoo accomplished in his career. And it wasn't a long career. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Zoo didn't have a very long career.
No, he didn't. And he accomplished so much. And he was probably hands down the most feared fighter next to Edwin Valerio in boxing. You know what I'm saying?
You know, speaking of that very thing that you just said right there. So I saw Rene Moreno a couple weeks ago, and he had never seen Costa Zoo fight. And we watched a video of like, you know, most of his knockouts. And that's the fighter that came to mind. He said he fights like Edwin Valero. Just like when he gets you hurt, he just wide stance and just lets his hands go and just beats you into submission. And I never even equated those two or even compared the two. And then I sat back and I go, you know what? He's right. He fought.
No, you said that before. You see the comparisons, because we used to call him, you know, the quiet storm, because he never looked like he was like Hannibal Lecter, where he could do something really bad and his blood pressure doesn't even get a rise. You never saw Zoo excited to the level to where he was jumping on the ropes after a victory. He would knock you out, and then you would have to shake him to see if he was awake, because it was just muscle memory with these guys. But getting back to what you're saying with Eubanks, what really shows me that this, you know, Eubanks he's never going to fill the shoes of his daddy. And he's really hasn't taken those challenges that he says he wants. Yeah, he lost that decision, but it was his loss to George Groves. Showed, I guess, a guy who's thoroughly dominated, you know, when he stepped up, and a guy who was really at the last stage of his career.
Yeah.
For an upcoming guy to lose to a guy like George Groves, that's the kind of fight where you got to win third round knockout.
Yeah, he should have won. Especially like you said, George Groves was on the tail end of his career. I think his very next fight or two fights after that is when he was thoroughly dominated by Callum Smith, who then went on to be thoroughly dominated by Canelo Alvarez. Yeah, so
yeah, you know, I mean, you just never know with these guys like this. But you know, I think both Ben and Eubank Juniors, both of them have kind of shitty attitudes. They both do really. They're both very mouthy. I know Eubanks was training at the Mayweather gym in Vegas and just kind of trying to be flashy and trying to be like, I don't know, in the UK's version of Floyd. Now you got Ben's son running his mouth, and you know, he's fighting guys that are substandard. I'm wondering if Michael Watson has a son that fights, you know, that could come in and maybe shut both these guys up. But you even look at Ben and Eubanks when they were pros. They were mouthy to one another, but they were also very respectful to one another. They were very go back to when Ben, if you've never seen it, go back and watch Ben when he lost to Chris Eubanks. I'll tell you something right now, man. To hear Ben say what he said after the fight, that, hey, look at, man, he hurt me, he got me here like this. I mean, very humble. You know what I'm saying? And a dangerous fighter. And everybody knows, you know, what Ben was able to accomplish and stuff like this. But there's just not that kind of product coming out of the UK anymore. The Frank Bruno's, Real Nigel Benn in those days, those are over, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know if you want to, we're going to probably dedicate an entire show to the Canelo fight, which is coming up next weekend. But anything further to say on that PBC card? I mean, there's been a little bit of rumblings going on about, you know, some other potential matchups being announced, whatever, and people chiming in on the Canelo fight. Canelo, you know, talking about, you know, basically just not even really giving the time of day and not even taking anything serious when it comes to the Triller cards and whatnot. But that's another fight coming up in a week that I'm excited for as well. So we've got 2 good weekends of boxing, and they are going to allow fans. I'm not sure what the capacity is going to be here this weekend in Carson. I mean, it's probably too difficult to get tickets to go see that fight, but to see the fights this weekend. But I mean, I'm glad that things are starting to finally open up. We know that they've already damn near a sellout in Arlington for the fight next weekend.
Yeah, and there's actually a fight that's going to be fought the previous day. Michael Conlan is.
Oh, Michael Conlan's fighting this weekend also.
Yeah, against that Butla. the thing about Colin is he didn't.
I'm very disappointed in Colin's career so far. Got to be honest with you.
Yeah, he's just, it's not only just how he's performing. Like if you look at his last fight against Atakuchi, a fight that was a give and take fight. You know what I'm saying? There was Colin was penalized numerous points for low. I mean, they were doing everything to try to protect Colin, but it was his attitude afterwards. And, I just think that, I don't know, at this stage, you got to kind of start asking yourself, he's 29 years old and he's
fighting Friday. That's right. He's fighting this Friday.
And he hasn't taken he hasn't really had that real test out there against a guy that would be considered even close to a legitimate contender.
And you know what? Sadly, there was so much promise. There was so much hype on him coming out of the Olympics. And I think, sadly, he's more known for his post-fight middle fingers to the judges than his actual fighting career as a pro. He was a good amateur, but as a pro, he just hasn't really lit the world on fire. And he's looked very suspect at times.
And I think he would have if he didn't have to share the spotlight with another guy who came out about a little bit before, in Vasily Lomachenko, who right away took big bites out of the divisions right off the top, where Colin just kind of fed on the homebred stuff.
Colin came out the same time as Shakur Stevenson too.
Yeah.
So they came out the same year. They both fought in the same Olympics, right? I mean,
Shakur's already won a world title and he's already fought top guys, and Colin's still fighting homebreds, and he hasn't even crossed over the sea yet, I don't think. So, I mean,
he fought here. He fought in New York a couple of times, and they had good crowds. Remember, he had Conor McGregor come out with him to his pro debut and a couple of things. And there's a big Irish crowd in New York City, but he just hasn't caught on. All the hoopla surrounding him, and like I said, I mean, what's not to love? I mean, the Irish love fighting. And they're going to travel to support their fighter no matter where it's at. But he's just not the skilled fighter that a lot of people thought he was going to be. I mean, I believe he was co-promoted or at the time signed by Top Rank. He's with Queensberry, I think, solely now. So I think did Bob Arum to Top Rank, did they just give him the boot and says, hey, thanks, but no thanks. We've given you a couple shots and you're not doing it for us, man. You're not, because like we talked about earlier, Bob will sit and watch those fights. And if he knows the goods when he sees the goods, and I don't know, man. I mean, I want to root for the kid. I want him to do well, but I just don't see it. Another guy, a guy with a 14-2 record.
I'll tell you the one that's going to steal that show, though.
Don't know who him.
The one that's going to steal this show, and I know you've seen him fight, is on the same day, is Kieran Smith. He's putting his undefeated record up against Troy Williamson, who's also undefeated. These are two guys, from England, in a super welterweight bout. This is the kind of fight that
card is this Friday's card?
Yes.
I'm not seeing it.
It's on Boxrec. It's at a different location.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah. I don't know if you've ever seen it before. They call Kieran Smith, they call him Chopper. He's a good fighter, you know what I'm saying? But he's another guy at 16-0, he's 27 years old and stuff. And he's taking on another guy, who's 29, who's 15-0.
Troy Williamson.
Yeah. So this is a kind of like, one of them's going to win the fight and get the ticket, like on the Titanic, to go across the pond. And the other one's going to have to figure it out.
Oh, yeah. I think I have seen this kid fight. Yeah.
You've seen him fight.
Yeah, this kid's good. This is going to be a good fight. I mean, this is two undefeated fighters.
Yeah.
That's going to be a good fight. Guys at 154. That's going to be a good fight.
Yeah.
Very good fight.
The undercards of a lot of these UK bouts, I've been watching the fights on DAZN. I was watching the ones just last week, and they've been excellent. I mean, there were some
good fights.
Yeah. So I mean,
competitive. So they're doing some good matchmaking. Unfortunately for Eddie Hearn, for Matchroom, he's having some issues right now. He's got a couple fighters. I hear they still haven't locked down the particulars for the Fury Joshua fight. Like, what is taking so long?
I talked about it on the show too. It looks like right now the site fee, the bid was won by the Saudis at $125 million
to fight in UAE, Dubai.
Yeah. So it's most likely going to go there. I think they're just working out some glove issues and some other things, and they're going to make the full announcement. But Eddie was pretty confident that this is where it's going to end up and stuff. And it's actually a good step for Joshua because he didn't do too good over here in the United States. But I mean, whoever wins here, we know Tyson Fury likes to fight here. If Anthony Joshua pulls the upset off and comes back and say fights in not Madison Square Garden, skip it, Las Vegas, and bring back those crowds, it's going to be huge. There's something inside me telling me that something's going to sabotage this fight. I don't know why, but there's something inside of me that telling me
this fight's not going to happen. I don't know why. Maybe I'm just being
I can
paranoid.
see an injury. You know what I was thinking about? It was weird because I had a weird dream.
Injury to Tyson
that
Fury.
They both hit heads, and there was this weird thing, and it went to like a technical draw, like early on and stuff like this. That's the kind of thing you don't want to see. But Tyson Fury has all the ability to beat Anthony Joshua, but we just don't know if we've seen. Have we already seen the best of Tyson Fury and what he showed against Deontay Wilder? And have we?
Yeah, which one shows up? The one that fought, the one that fought in Vegas where he looked substandard against the Swede, or the one that against the Wilder rematch?
But have we really seen the best of Anthony Joshua? Maybe Anthony Joshua's got another level that we're not even aware of. We're gonna find out.
We'll see. I think the best Anthony Joshua performance in my mind, believe it or not, was probably the Andy Reese rematch. And not that Andy Reese was all that, because like I said, we all know he didn't take that fight serious. He ballooned up another 15, 20 pounds in between fights, didn't train properly, whatever. But the fact that AJ was able to stick to the game plan, box, move, fight when he had to, never really stood in exchange and got caught with nothing stupid. And I will give him credit for that. He did make the adjustments. He said, what I did last fight didn't work. I got caught. I got dropped 4 times. The referee stopped the fight. I can't do that again. And he stuck to his game plan.
And I wasn't really impressed with that second fight. I'm gonna tell you for the one reason. I thought Anthony Joshua fought scared against a fat, shorter fighter, Andy Reese. Yeah. Almost kind of like he didn't want to get hit with that big punch. Now, he made adjustments, and when he fought against Pulev, that he did exactly. That was the Anthony Joshua I'm used to seeing, a guy who came in, because I'll tell you right now, that final sequence when he dropped Pulev was textbook.
Oh yeah,
that's the kind of thing
if he does that,
he brings that Deontay Wilder doesn't possess. He doesn't possess those kind of technical skills. He'll hit you with the big shot, maybe catch you going down. But Anthony Joshua will put together this nice little scenario and make it look dramatic. And that's where Tyson Fury has to be aware.
Yeah, because he had, Tyson Fury doesn't have the greatest chin.
No.
He's been dropped. Steve Cunningham dropped him. Obviously we know Wilder dropped him twice.
Well, no, people are going to say that about Anthony Joshua. We just got to go to chin. Well, Tyson Fury's been dropped numerous times and gets up. Anthony Joshua's been dropped numerous times and gets up. So until one of them have shown the ability to get knocked out yet, maybe this all changes.
Yeah, exactly. One of them, gets counted out. Then we could say,
yeah,
So we saw AJ hurt against Dillian White.
He was hurt against Joseph Parker.
Yeah,
he was hurt against Vladimir Klitschko.
He was hurt against.
But then
Klitschko.
Again, he's the thing is with Joshua he's put the hurt on a lot of fighters. You know what I'm saying? He dropped Andy Reese. He took care of Povetkin. He took care of Joseph Parker.
Pulev.
He
took care of what's his name from Corona, Dominic Brazil.
Yeah, and he made it look easy. He pretty much, and you got to go back and look at what Tyson Fury's done. So, with the exception of Tyson Fury's bout against Deontay Wilder, Tyson Fury did not look very good against Otto Wallin.
Yeah, that's the one, the Swede, Otto Wallin. He did not look good against Wallin.
He blasted out Schwartz, who really is not
Tom
a boxer.
Schwartz, yeah,
wasn't a boxer. The fight before that was Deontay Wilder, which was a draw. But even before that, in his win over Francisco Pineda, he did not look all that great. You can keep going down and you see how many fights where Anthony Joshua. See, here's the thing: is against a fighter like Francisco Pineda, Tyson Fury should destroy this guy. He doesn't. Anthony Joshua does. That's the difference. And so we'll just see how that's going to come together.
That's why I was saying. So which Tyson Fury shows up?
Yeah.
And Tyson.
But then again, this was prior to Tyson's little coke binge, so who knows what was going on.
What do you think about Tyson lately? He's been in the press. Obviously, he's in camp with Billy Joe Saunders, saying that Billy Joe's going to give Canelo a boxing lesson and blah blah blah.
He's delusional. This is going to be. We're going to talk more about it. We're going to put a whole segment together for it, but this is going to be a boxing clinic that's combined with what I would consider, like that movie, The Hostel, where they pay to go in there and torture you, because Canelo's not just going to go in there and end Billy Joe Saunders. He's going to make Billy Joe Saunders wish he never stepped in the ring. He's really gotten under Canelo's skin. Billy Joe's too busy on social media, talking this, doing this like this. Canelo is like Clubber Lane, down in the sweat pit or in Mexico, getting ready. And believe me, who's going to be the one prepared? You'll never can question Canelo, his preparation or his dedication. You have to question Billy Joe Saunders, because just a couple fights ago, we were wondering if he's even going to fight again.
Yeah, I wonder when I think about Billy Joe's last performance against Martin Murray and how lackluster it was. Yeah, he dominated Martin Murray, but Martin Murray was probably semi-retired at the time the fight was signed. I look at Canelo fighting a guy like that. And I know the triangle theory doesn't really work in boxing, but I don't think Martin Murray gets out of 2 rounds with Canelo.
No,
I think I think he does. I think he beats him just like he beat the guy he last fought.
because Canelo does what he's supposed to do. He understands that there's opponents that are there to test you, and there's opponents that are there just kind of waiting in the wings for you to run right past them and stuff. But like I said, Canelo hasn't stopped. The only reason why Canelo, after his defeat to Floyd Mayweather, he became a better fighter. He took his career maybe a little bit more seriously and stuff and tried to progress and evolve into a better fighter each and every fight. Billy Joe Saunders hasn't shown that. That's like somebody, who's been a drug addict their whole life. They go to Victory Outreach. Are you going to let that person come out and babysit your kids? No.
Yeah,
One
exactly.
fight doesn't do it, man. It's a lifelong commitment. And Billy's shown that he doesn't have that lifelong commitment.
Yeah. Hey, speaking about fighters, you were talking about, issues, whatever. You talked about Tyson Fury, his coke binge, whatever. What is going on with Ryan Garcia? I read a statement that Golden Boy said, and he said he had to step away from boxing to kind of get his life right or whatever. What is the kid? Is the kid partying? Is he getting too, I mean, we know he's already too full of himself, but is something happening that we don't know about?
I don't honestly,
is he out there partying and doing drugs or drinking, and then he doesn't have it under control, or what?
Well, I think it's a combination of things. I think it's some legal issues that he's facing right now with Golden Boy. I think it's the pressure from the social media bullshit and the company that he's keeping right now, because he's not being looked at and coveted and protected by the Reynosos like they do with Canelo. You know what I'm saying? Their focus is on Canelo. They understand Ryan Garcia is a commodity, and he's going to achieve that level. But right now, he's not quite there.
But they see the Reynosos, love or hate them, they know what they have in front of them. They know that Ryan Garcia, they can look good against certain people, but they know against the elite in that division, I just don't think he holds up. I just don't. I don't think he holds up. I mean, Luke Campbell dropped him hard, and Luke Campbell's not exactly Luke Campbell's a guy that won the gold medal, but like multiple divisions below, right? 122 or 124, whatever the Olympic.
I still think that was a coming out party for Ryan Garcia. I thought that gave him good momentum going forward with his career, because Luke was a guy who was competitive against Vasily Lomachenko. You know what I'm saying? He scores a knockdown against Ryan Garcia, so okay, he could be knocked down, but was how Ryan Garcia reacted afterwards. He got up with anger and actually won the rest of the round.
Yeah, but so what is going on with him? So I mean, why not take that momentum and like what?
That's what tells me something is really strange, and they're really, really, I don't know if it's Golden Boy or the Reynosos, but whoever's doing it, there's no leaks. It is a complete mystery. I know there was some talk about some sanction fees and some fines and penalties. I don't think Ryan cares. There's something major going on with this kid right now, beyond boxing. And I think rather than people go out there and start tearing this kid apart and saying he's a coward, he's not. Because I was telling you last night, I was watching the Gervonta Davis Leo Santa Cruz fight. If Gervonta Davis had that kind of issues with Leo Santa Cruz, okay, what he incurred. Now he knocked out him against a guy who's fought against bigger guys than Ryan Garcia. I'm not saying that he doesn't knock Ryan Garcia out the same way he knocks out Leo Santa Cruz, but Ryan Garcia's got that X factor. He's got that opportunity to do the things to Gervonta Davis. Ryan Garcia belongs with these guys, the Devin Haney's and all these guys right now, because he's fought the better competition at this point, with exception to Gervonta Davis. Who's Devin Haney fought? Nobody. He's finally got a big fight coming up against a guy who really is on the downside of his career. And to me, honestly, it's a 50-50 fight.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
People are quick to make this kid look out, but you got to understand, this kid went there and done nothing but blasted people out. Look what he did against what was Mariaga?
Who's that?
Ryan Garcia. When he knocked out Mariaga in the first round.
Not Manuel Mariaga.
Yeah.
I thought it was a Filipino kid he knocked out in the first round.
That was Duarte. That was another one.
Yeah, okay, so the Ryan Garcia Fortuna fight was signed, right? Right?
Yes.
And now the fight's off now.
Yeah.
Okay, so
Oh no, I'm sorry. Francisco Fonseca, a guy who
Fonseca,
gave
he didn't fight
Tank
Marriaga fights
Davis
at 126.
everything. And it actually had his moments, and it was actually controversial the way it ended. And he went in there and he blasted out on him with one punch in the first round. And that was coming off of the first round knockout over Romero Duno, who was a little bit too small. But then again, an undefeated guy who was stepping up. Before that, against Jose Lopez, he's fought the better guys. I hate to say it.
then the David Henneys and the Shakur Stevensons. Yeah.
And then, just taking that risk with Luke Campbell, Gervonta Davis, when he took on Leo Santa Cruz, a guy who was moving up, we told ourselves, Leo's a great fighter. He's a great fighter at this division, not here.
Yeah, so he had no business fighting.
And Tank still had his issues. That's what I'm saying. So what happens when Tank gets in there against a guy of equal stature in his division? What happens then?
A guy with pop, because Leo hasn't had a knockout in, I think probably since he fought at 122, 118, whatever. Yeah, Leo's never been a big puncher. He's a volume guy. He gets you out of there with volume. But I mean, you're right. If Garcia lands on Tank, would he be able to withstand those shots? We don't know.
Like I said, I know the kid's a punk. He's not a Jake Paul type of punk. He doesn't run his mouth to the extreme levels where whatever like this. I wish the kid the best. I hope it's not something that's career, whatever like this, but it's something weird that's going on right now and stuff. And we'll just have to see what happens.
Yeah.
But getting back on, since we're talking a little bit about, we got a little bit of time, Devin Haney, what's your thoughts on that? Jorge Linares? I never really got your take on that. What you thought?
Well, I don't know, because we got to remember Linares is coming off of that pretty devastating knockout when he tried to go up to 140, which he probably knew he had no business going up there. Has he fought since that knockout loss?
Yeah, he has. He had I'll tell you right now.
I mean, Linares is, which Linares shows up, the one that fought Lomachenko and really just fought the fight of his life, even in defeat, or is it a guy that gets stopped in one round, gets caught with something? I don't think Haney has the punch to knock out Devin Haney. I'm sorry, to knock out Linares. I mean, Haney and Shakur Stevenson both alike. I think both guys are good, skilled, slick boxers and fast, but they don't have pop, really. Neither one of them has pop.
Yeah, Linares has actually had 2 victories since that loss to Pablo Cano. And let's be honest, he had no business fighting at that thing. But that just, honestly, I'm going to tell you right now, that's the machismo in that Spaniard in Linares. He's the type of guy that's just going to take those risks. He's done it before in the past. He suffers the consequences, but I think he does it because it tests him. You know what I'm saying? He comes back even better, because I think at some point people stop wanting to think, am I going to take this risk against Linares? Yeah, he lost to Lomachenko, but he dropped Lomachenko and it was competitive for a moment. Do I take that chance? Well, he just lost to Cano. Okay, now I'll take that chance because maybe he's shot born. I'm going to tell you now, I think this is a very winnable fight for him against Devin Haney. I think he's going to surprise Devin Haney. I'm not just talking about punching power, because I don't think Devin Haney has any. He's going to surprise Devin Haney with his ring skills and his boxing ability. I think he's going to keep Devin Haney on the end of that jab. I think he's going to make Devin Haney pay for those lapses in memory that he gets in fights and stuff when he starts to slow things down. That's what happened to Lomachenko.
So Linares, you think Linares will put the foot on the gas and go after him?
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. You got to look at what Devin Haney, what he did against Yuriorkis Gamboa. Gamboa had his moments in that fight and was competitive to the entire fight, but Gamboa is not Jorge Linares in no way, shape, or form.
And physically, he's nowhere near.
And Linares is a dangerous fighter, man. I've said this since day one, since when he was fighting with Tekken back in Japan. He is a dangerous fighter. He's a little chinny, but like I said, Devin Haney is not a monstrous puncher.
Yeah.
I mean, you have to go back to 2019 from when he scored a TKO, and it was a questionable TKO.
Yeah, and Linares is going to be motivated for this fight too, because he knows a win here. I mean, it gets him a strap, right? The WBA or WBC, whichever belt, WBC, right?
Yep.
He gets him a version of the title, and he's right back in the mix. He's right back into, maybe getting a rematch against the Lomachenko at 135, or maybe getting a shot at Teofimo Lopez, or the winner of Lopez,
which is winnable bouts for because I tell you right now, the one thing about Jorge Linares, even in his defeats, they've come at a moment in his career when it's not considered destructible to his career, because he comes back with such ferocity and just wins. You know what I'm saying? The thing is, El Nino,
he kind of loses in like one-offs, like fights that don't really make the headline. You're like, oh, what do you mean Linares fought? He fought and lost? What the hell's he? I didn't even know he was fighting. But the big fights, the big shows, he shows up.
No, so he shows up, and he wins, and he usually wins in impressive fashion. Go back and watch his fight against Luke Campbell. He dominated Luke Campbell more than Lomachenko did, I thought, by a wider margin. People made a big thing about, his 2 fights with Corolla. He thoroughly dominated Corolla in both those fights. Ivan Cano before. I mean, the list goes on of the guys that he's fought and beaten. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
For Devin Haney, who's really gotten under Linares, and I saw a thing with Linares, and they were trying to get some, because Linares is a guy who doesn't give a lot of interviews.
Yeah.
And when they asked him about the upcoming fight, and what his thoughts were about this, everything, Linares just kind of did this thing that I saw Conor McGregor do on this commercial, where he just kind of went like this and just kind of gave this look.
Yeah.
Kind of shrugged his nose and just wouldn't even say anything. That tells me right there. All right. His mind is exactly where it needs to be. Let Devin Haney run his mouth. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this. Once he walks in the ring with Linares, it's going to be a different story.
Yeah. I'm excited for that fight. That fight's what, in a couple weeks? It's a couple weeks away still, right?
Yeah.
May, June.
Yeah. It should be there. And anything else you can think of any word on a Munguia about a possible opponent for him?
Haven't heard anything about Munguia. Haven't heard anything about Joan Cepeda. Was supposed to fight on the 22nd on the undercard of Taylor versus Ramirez. And I tell you, man, I don't know, man.
I saw an interview. They did an interview with Ramirez.
They're just giving Chon the shaft, man. Here's a guy that just gets the fucking shaft. Like remember where there be opponents? Remember Branchik backing out of the fight, then they give him that Ocampo kid or Compass, whatever that kid's name was, the big kid from Texas, and then he goes and fights Branchik, and now they're saying this opponent, it's not experienced enough. So what are they gonna do with him? So he's been training. I know he's been training, and now he doesn't have an opponent. Are they gonna at the last minute give him an opponent? If I was
him,
it's
tactics, bro. I think what it is.
I think so. It's all stalling tactics, man.
I think
he's like a gnat that they're just trying to shoo him away, but he's the guy that rightfully deserves the shot.
I saw something when they were talking with Ramirez during the card the other night, and they were doing an interview with him, and they asked him about his fight. He said that he's going to be the slight underdog against Taylor, but I'm going to tell you something right now where this is a winnable fight for Ramirez, because Taylor is not as polished or as accomplished. Go back and watch the Regis Prograis fight, which is a controversial decision. Regis has evolved from that fighter that fought against there. He knows the mistakes that he made. He waited too long. He didn't let his hands go. Watching his last fight that he just fought. Go back to his fight. I'm sorry, when he fought in the undercard of the Leo Santa Cruz Gervonta Davis fight. That's the Regis Prograis that would have smoked Josh Taylor. But the problem is, if Ramirez wins this fight, there will be no will to want to fight Chon Cepeda. They're keeping Chon out there on a hook to see what's going to happen. And hopefully he'll get tripped up by somebody so they can take him out of the picture. Because at the end of the day, I don't care if it's Josh Taylor or if it's Ramirez. I don't even care if it's Regis Prograis. To me, that would be an amazing 4 things. Have Chon fight Regis Prograis, and then the 2 winners of Josh Taylor Ramirez fight, and boom, you got a super champion right there.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. And I think Chon, his biggest obstacle right now is just staying focused.
And I'm sure he is.
It's like Jaime Munguia. It's like staying focused because he's training. Oh, the fighter backed out. Oh, we got to back up. Oh, now he backs out. But I'm still going to get an opponent. Oh, it fights off. I mean, that's tough, man. That is a tough thing. At
this level, bro, especially a guy rated as high, the number 1 contender in the world, you would think that his promotion and these people would get this shit fixed. Why are they doing this to this fighter? There's got to be some kind of backdoor intent here for what they're doing to both Munguia, Chon Cepeda, and a few others. It doesn't make any sense because everybody else is able to get an opponent. Why this?
I just think De La Hoya's that promotional company has seen its better days. And I'm going to say it right here. One day we're going to see the return of HBO boxing, and one day we're going to see the complete downfall of Golden Boy. I firmly believe that. You got Oscar now like focusing on fighting again. It's like, dude, you're supposed to be heading up your promotion company. Mike Tyson and Roy Jones could do that nonsense because they don't run promotional companies, right? You're the head, you're the CEO of one of the considered elite promotions. You lost Canelo. Your other guy, Ryan Garcia, is obviously taking time away from fighting. Virgil Ortiz is going to wise up eventually and be like, I got to get out of here. I got to get away from this nonsense. Jaime Munguia is not getting any fights, and he's only co-promoted by Golden Boy.
I got a better question, bro. And I know they're from different promotions and stuff. But if Jamal Charlo, okay, I've never heard him even mention Munguia's name. And Munguia's at 160, but he's going to fight one of Munguia's scraps, and Munguia basically, landblasted in 2 rounds. Why couldn't they make that fight happen? Because I tell you right now, Munguia's people, I know, would jump right on it.
Yeah.
But what about the Charlos? At this point, it kind of kills any argument out there when you try to say, oh, Munguia's not fighting anybody. Well, if he's not fighting anybody, then why is Charlo fighting the guys that he beat that are nobodies?
Oh yeah. Well, look, you could take the guy, what's his name? Ballard, who just the undefeated kid fights for Golden Boy, right? They still haven't given specifics on what kind of injury he sustained.
He didn't
either
want
way, that's a much better opponent than Charlo's opponent coming up. The guy, like I said, the guy that got knocked out in 2 rounds by Munguia at 154, and he's fighting at 160. This was at 154.
Yeah,
when Munguia knocked him out.
Let me ask you a question, bro, because you've spent a lot of time with Jaime. At any point, do you think any opponent, does Jaime even really look at the opponent, or is it whoever they put in front of him? He's like, okay.
Yeah.
He's not the kind of guy who's going to sit there and squalm over things. He wants the best. And for them to kind of try to downsize his decisions, it's not Jaime making these decisions. Jaime will fight anybody. People forget this is a guy who, when he was coming out of the co-ring prospect of the year, whatever like this, thrust it into the limelight, was ready to step in the ring with the monster Gennady Golovkin, but was deemed not a credible opponent by Gennady and by the sanctioning bodies. So how dare anybody think that this guy doesn't want to fight the best? He's just fighting whoever's willing to get in the ring with him at this point.
He'll fight anybody. He'll fight anybody. It's all nonsense. That's just talk. That's just casuals. That's just people talking for the sake of talking. It's just people. It's just
they talked with Gennady. They were talking about his next fight coming up, and they brought up Munguia's thing. Gennady won't even entertain it. He still thinks that Munguia is not a big enough star. And I'm like, whoa, hold on a second. And this guy that you're going to fight is? No, Munguia is a dangerous challenge, and this guy's not. That's why you're fighting him.
Yeah, Golovkin he's just holding out for. He thinks he's going to get the golden ticket and get the Canelo trilogy, and it's not going to happen.
Canelo's dance card's already filled, bro. To the day that Gennady's done, it's filled.
Yeah. Gennady at this point, he should either take one big fight or just retire, because nobody cares anymore. Really, his stock is dropping faster than freaking GameStop. Nobody just cares anymore about Gennady. And I was a Gennady fan, when he was on his KO streak, but he's just made some decisions. The fact that, it goes back to when he asked Abel Sanchez to take a flat rate and Abel Sanchez refused. I
side with no in boxing, bro.
I side with Abel on that.
Yeah,
I side with Abel on that one, man. Yeah, because once one guy does it, then they all start doing it. Then it's expected. Well, so and so is only taking a flat fee of whatever. It's like, yeah, I got you here. I whatever. But Gennady at this point, take a big fight with somebody or just retire. Fight Munguia. Make the fight with Demetrius Andrade. Right. Even though. That would be a hard sell because Andre is just not exciting. Make that fight.
I don't think Andre takes that fight, bro. I think Andre's.
I don't either. I think Eddie Hearn tells him, you either take this fight, dude, or I'm done. I'm going to release you from your contract and you can go fight for. What promotion would even pick that dude up at this point? Nobody. He's just not exciting enough.
Omega Beef over here. Don't pick him up. He'll fight over there. But I think a lot of had to do too is I think Gennady got a wake up call in that Derevyanchenko fight. Derevyanchenko, I go back and I watch that fight. I still think he won the fight. It was close, but I think it was a draw at the worst. You know what I'm saying? The way that decision was announced afterwards, and it was close even on the judges' decisions, but he fought Gennady toe for toe. He won a lot of those battles inside. He hurt Gennady to the body. He showed these things. Don't get me wrong. Gennady had his successes dropping him in the second round, stuff like this, but against a small guy in Derevyanchenko. You saw what happened to him late in his next fight when he fought against Jamal Charlo. He didn't have that same success against Gennady because, like you said, fighters, styles make fights. But Gennady's not that intimidating force. He's not a physically big guy. He's strong. He hits decent. He hits hard. But he's also a guy who's starting to slow down a little bit. And you just don't know how much is still that fire still burning, where guys like Munguia and even the Charlos are still trying to make something happen in that division.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, he's made some good money in the division, Gennady. That's what I'm saying. I mean, just either make one more big fight, go out with a bang, or just shut it down, because at this point, you're just going to continue to fight. You're 38 years old now. You're going to blink and be 39. You don't want to be pushing 40 years old and trying to get fights with Canelo, who's, 33 years old, 32, 33 years old, still a young man in his physical prime. It's just not going to happen, man.
Well, I see with Canelo's track what's going to happen. After he gets his fight against Billy Joe Saunders, and if he's successful against Billy Joe Saunders, I think Canelo, there was question whether or not he was going to venture back to 160, or maybe even 154.
He's not doing it.
No, he won't do it. There's been this underlying thing that's been talked about and stuff like this, and the possible guys that could possibly, it could be the thing that Canelo, because Canelo's one of those guys that's daring to be great. He's taking big risks. So why not take the ultimate risk and go after Beterbiev?
Yeah, that's not going to happen, bro. I'll tell you right now, he will not go to 175.
I never thought he would go after Sergey Kovalov. I never thought he would go after Callum Smith. You can't say never. He might. There's been talk about him and Zurdo Ramirez, going after Zurdo Ramirez.
Oh, he beat Zurdo.
And then to set it up, that would be his setup, because Canelo does that. He'll do a setup fight and then get ready for the next one.
Yeah.
I
think Beterbiev is just physically too
and I agree. I think he's too strong, but I think Beterbiev is very limited in his skills. He's very hittable. And if Canelo is able to do the things that he's done against big fighters, because he's used to fighting big guys, tall guys like Callum Smith, guys like Sergey Kovalov, if he can do that and avoid the power of Beterbiev, he might just be successful. You never know.
Yeah. I mean, look at, if it happened, it wouldn't surprise me, because like you said, Canelo's daring to be great, but I think he's even recently made comments that he's already done that. He's already went up to 175 and fought, Kovalev. I mean,
well, so I'm thinking, what other tests are there out there? If he unifies 168,
I think Dimitri Bivol has the physical stature to drop down to 168. I still don't say he's a legitimate.
I know.
I'm not saying he's not legitimate, because he's a champion at 175 and he's beat everybody they put in front of him, but he's not a big 175 pounder.
No, he's not.
He can go down to 168 and fight Canelo, and that would be a very good fight. That would be a very interesting fight. Yeah. It's a winnable fight for Canelo, and that's a young, strong, legitimate guy in his prime. That'd be a really good fight.
And I know where you're coming back, because like I said, when I look at Arthur Beterbiev, here's a guy that I think could definitely venture into the cruiserweight division. No problem whatsoever. But like I said, I mean, it's just the amount of people that are fighting. There's just not a whole lot of pickings at that division right now. And
that division's thinning out.
With every year that goes by, his skills aren't getting tested like they should. When you got guys that are out there biting against bigger and bigger guys, it's about being sharp. You know what I'm saying? Don't get me wrong.
He needs to fight the guys that are going to help develop him still. Even though he's a champion, he owns 2 belts. Obviously the win against Vosdik was very impressive, because even though it was competitive, I mean, you just saw physically how he broke Vosdik down and sent him into retirement.
Amazing fighter, bro. I mean,
undefeated champion, and put him into retirement. And just, that was a great fight, man. That was a really good fight. And that was a fight that, Russia versus the Ukraine, there's a bit of a grudge match there. It's like Mexico, Puerto Rico. But
I'll tell you, my fantasy bout, honestly, if it would have happened, but it's not going to happen because the guy ventured to heavyweight, would have been Usyk and Beterbiev. That would have been
at cruiserweight.
Oh yeah, dude. That would have just been because you never know, because Usyk is the boxer, he's got the skills, but Beterbiev's got that punch that can just end everything at one, and he doesn't stop. He's like a tank. He just keeps coming.
Yeah.
And Usyk's shown a vulnerability about getting into the body, and Beterbiev loves to eat that body up.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just it's crazy.
Yeah. Well, we're about an hour and 15 in, bro. So I think we're about done. So we're going to obviously be back on Sunday to recap this weekend's fights. Like I said, there's fights starting at 2:00 in the afternoon on Saturday on DAZN.
Yeah, 2:00 in the afternoon.
Friday's fights are on Sky. That's Queensbury. That's going to be on Sky Sports, I believe, if you can have a way to stream that or find that. And then obviously the pay-per-view event here Saturday. I'm gonna make a few phone calls, man. Maybe we could, maybe they are opening up some tickets to the general public, and we can grab a couple. That'd be a great fight to go to this weekend.
See what you can do, man. I'd really like to do. Let me know, dude, so I can get some Ariola shirts made up before we go out there and stuff like that.
Yeah,
so we go support Chris. And we gotta support the local boy. It's not that we're taking one over the other. We gotta support the local boy.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but I'm telling you, I think people are gonna be in for. I don't know, man. This could be George Foreman, Ron Lyle all over again, but just instead of 2 African Americans, it's 2 Mexicans just knocking the shit out of each other.
Everybody talks about how tough the Mexicans are at Texas. Well, you know what? there's a lot of tough Mexicans out of Riverside, California. I'll tell you right now, one of them is Ariola. It's gonna be a barn burner, bro. It's gonna be great. Is Johnny gonna try to make it?
In fact,
I know he'd probably try to be there. Huh?
You know what? If tickets can be had, Johnny will get them because Johnny and Chris are tight. You know, they've been friends for years.
Yeah.
So, and if it's a TGB promotion, you know, it's just a matter of a phone call. It's a matter of a phone call to get some tickets. I'm gonna
put your feelers out there. Put your feelers out there.
I'm gonna
do that, bro.
I'm gonna do that, bro.
Sounds good, man. And we'll do a live broadcast from there. And we'll talk about
we'll do a couple of interviews and stuff. Yeah, maybe we can. Maybe
everybody who's anybody's going to be there.
Oh yeah, are you kidding
like
me?
The Oscars, dude.
Oh yeah. Well, but with better ratings.
Okay, before we go, real quick, I got something funny to say. So they were showing this thing about the Oscars. They were running it down, and I know the kid who won the best supporting actor. I've seen him in that movie Get Out. He's actually a pretty decent actor. He's not bad.
Yeah,
but they're running these movies down. I was happy that Anthony Hopkins, but I looked at my wife and I was like, Have I been like really out of it that long? I haven't heard of one of these movies, and I'm a movie kind of guy. I haven't heard none of these things.
I didn't watch 1 second. I read that Frances McDormand won Best Actress again. She's a great actress.
She's a great actress.
So. Good for her. But
Anthony Hopkins got Best Actor.
I didn't even know he was still acting, and I'm thinking, if you're still acting, why are we not seeing a new Silence of the Lambs? God damn it! I don't want to see some stupid movie about whatever, you know, some rom-com or drama.
Everybody talked about this David Kamula, whatever his performance in this Black Messiah, whatever it was. Dude, I liked his performance as Black Death and Kick-Ass too. That was my favorite performance from him. So like, this guy do more of that shit, dude.
Anthony Hopkins, if you've got one more in you, just make another Silence of the Lambs. You could do it, man.
And eat Jodie Foster at the end, dude. Oh, how awesome would that be? Just eat her like a hog, dude. Just eat her, dude.
Get the pigs and just
like
eat her from
big lesbian salad, dude. Just eat her, dude.
Stupid. We just got a community guidelines strike on our channel.
All right,
bro. That was fun. We'll see you on Sunday, everybody. I think, you know, I think we'll talk about this off the air, but maybe we should consider doing a 6 o'clock start time on Tuesday, because now that it's lighter out, I mean, she's showing homes into later afternoon, so it's a little bit harder to get, which is why we started an hour late tonight. But maybe we'll revisit the time, and maybe we'll just push it back an hour during the spring and summer. You know. And shout out to our brother Eric DeRed. I know he's been busy with this company stuff. Like I said, I'm so happy that things are working out good. But he'll be back on Sunday. Yeah, he's doing some auditions today for his business. So yeah, we'll see him back on Sunday, I'm sure. Yeah, and then maybe we can make some announcement about our band, hopefully getting back on stage here pretty soon. Yeah. Oh, that's another thing I need to talk to you about. I had a nice, good conversations with our lead singer. So good things from her. So everybody be ready. Everybody be ready. All right, man. For all of us at Enter the Ring Live, for even though he's not here, Eric the Reds in spirit, Mighty Mike, AJ Rage. We'll see you guys on Sunday at 5 o'clock Sunday. 5 o'clock Sunday.